Happy Sunday night, guys. Captain Dylan Hubbard here at Hubbard's Marina. It is time. It is our Sunday night live stream fishing show. Hopefully, y'all are ready for another great Sunday night show. Thanks for tuning in. Again, Captain Dylan Hubbard here at Hubbard's Marina. Happy Sunday night, y'all. Captain Dylan Hubbard here at Hubbard's Marina. Thanks for tuning in to our Sunday night live stream fishing show. It's another great Sunday night with another great show lined up for y'all. Hopefully you guys are ready for some fishing. And we're going to be talking all about nearshore and offshore fishing. And we're going to be giving away free tips, tricks, and more. So hopefully someone's ready to win some free trips. Hopefully you guys got some questions for me lined up. We're going to be talking all about whatever you guys want to talk about here shortly. Keep in mind, guys, this starts around 8:30. We're probably going to start around 8:35 tonight. And we're going to be talking for about an hour about nearshore and offshore fishing tips, tricks, and more. We're going to cover the weather. We're going to talk all about what we've been catching and answer your questions and give away free fishing trips. That's right, free fishing trips. Now, guys, don't forget to comment where you're watching from. Don't forget to share this video with friends. Don't forget to like or subscribe to our pages. And we're going to get started shortly. We got a lot of cool videos lined up for you tonight. Got an inshore fishing report. We've got some special stuff going on. We got some big news to share. And I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully you guys are looking forward to it too. Hubbard's Marina, fishing local waters since 1928. We're nestled right here in central West Florida in Johns Pass, Madeira Beach. We started from rowboats with cane poles, and over 90 years later, we're still hard at it, guys. I'm fourth generation, and my son is fifth generation. He's coming soon. September 1st is the due date on my baby boy. That's right. The baby is a boy. We just found out. Real excited about that. Looking forward to meeting him soon. I'm sure a lot of you guys will hopefully get a chance to meet him too. Remember, you have to comment on the Hubbard's Marina. Go to Facebook, go to Hubbard's Marina, and you got to comment on the Hubbard's Marina Facebook video in order to have a chance to win this free fishing trip tonight, guys. If you're watching on YouTube, that's a great place to watch, and I appreciate it, but you cannot win free fishing trips from YouTube, unfortunately, because YouTube likes being a pain in my butt. We did really well on our 39-hour. You guys are going to see lots of photos from that 39-hour trip, and we're going to talk a lot about it, show you some videos from it, give you some updates on our trips coming up. We got some super light loads. Tomorrow we only got 25 on the half day. We're definitely in that little lull time in between spring break and summer. So if you were thinking about going fishing, definitely time to go do it for sure. But we're just about ready to get rolling here, guys. Don't forget to comment where you're watching from. Don't forget to share this video with friends. And don't forget to like our Facebook page, subscribe to us on YouTube, and let's get it rolling, guys. All right, let's click the right buttons tonight, hopefully. Let's see one thing. There we go. Got our random comments. One more second, guys. I forgot one thing, and then we're going to get started. I tricked you. Sorry about that, folks. Got to make sure all my ducks are in a row before we get rolling here. But we are just about there. Don't forget to comment where you're watching from. That enters you for a chance to win free fishing trips. That's right. Free fishing trips. All you have to do is comment on the Hubbard's Marina Facebook page video, and you're in there like swimwear. I cracked myself up. All right. We are ready to rock and roll. How you guys doing? Thanks for tuning in. Captain Dylan Hubbard here at Hubbard's Marina in beautiful Johns Pass, Madeira Beach. Hopefully you guys are ready to talk some fishing. I'm ready to answer your fishing questions and give you lots of tips and tricks. We always start these shows out by showing you some photos and videos from this trip and talking about fishing reports and what's going on right now. And then we talk a little bit about the weather, and then we talk about what's coming up, and then we answer your questions. And sometime during the show, we're going to be giving away free fishing trips. We're going to give away a 5-hour half day for 2 people. We're going to give away a 10-hour all day for 2 people. And we might even give away a 39-hour fishing trip for 1 person. But we have to get up to 300 live viewers. Right now, we're at about 170 live viewers, 180 live viewers now. So we need a few more, and you guys, we're going to give away a free 39-hour trip to show my appreciation for you guys, because what would we be without you guys? But let's get right into this and show you some photos from our trips. Here are our 5 and 10-hour photos. And let's go ahead and show you that now. Look at that sucker. Now, for those of you who don't know, this nice lady here in the yellow shirt, that's Emily Dragostine. She's actually one of our office reservation ladies, office salespeople. So she works in the office at Hubbard's Marina, and she decided to come out fishing on a 10-hour trip. First fish in the boat, first bait she drops down, she hooks up on this beautiful blackfin tuna. So that's pretty cool to see not only our boat crew having a good time out in the boat, but even our office staff is pretty addicted to fishing. So we're really blessed at Hubbard's Marina to have a great team. This is Gene on the right side. He's one of our first mates on our 5 and 10-hour trips. And this little guy in the middle is his son, who enjoys going fishing with his dad. So pretty cool. We got the whole family out there catching fish. The blackfin tuna that they're holding up, this is one of many blackfins we've been catching lately. The blackfin tuna bite's going really well around 100 foot of water, and anywhere from like 80, 90 all the way up to about 120 foot. We're seeing a lot of blackfin. We're seeing some blackfin tuna deeper than that as well, but they're a little bit more sporadic. It seems to be that 80, 90 foot to about 110, 120 seems to kind of be the epicenter of the blackfin tuna area. For these blackfin tuna, I really like to use a live tail hooked pinfish on a spinning rod with a bigger spinning rod, 6, 7, 8,000 series spinning rod, or like a 4/0 conventional reel. A lot of braid in that reel, so I have a lot of line capacity, like 30, 40 pound braid, and then a 50 pound fluorocarbon or monofilament, like 6 to 8 foot piece of that, and a 5/0 circle hook and a tail hooked pinfish is my favorite flatline bait for these tuna. But we catch these tuna on kingfish stinger rigs with dead thread fins sometimes. We catch them a lot of times on the live sardines. Those lizard fish work really well for a blackfin tuna flatline. Typically the blackfin tuna, they like no wire. They're more likely to hit rigs without wire, but it does seem to work a little better to put out that kingfish stinger rig. That way, if you do hook up on a king or a wahoo or something like that, you do have a chance to catch them. But those blackfin tuna are great eating. I love eating these things. Literally fresh out of the water. All you have to do is cool them down and make sure there's no bacteria. So what we do is I'll put it in a little ice bath, a bunch of ice, a little bit of salt water, bleed it out, and let it sit there in the ice for 30, 40 minutes, get that meat nice and cold, and you can cut that thing up and eat it raw. It's crazy good. But that is a nice blackfin from the 10 hour. Here's another shot of that blackfin tuna after they had started bleeding it. That's Captain Dave. He was running the 10 hour that day. This was Thursday's 10 hour. They had a really a bunch of red grouper by 10-hour definitions. Lately, we haven't been catching a lot of red grouper on our 10-hour trip. They weren't really monstrous, but they were keeper red grouper. Lately, this time of year, February, March, and into April, red grouper are out in deeper waters spawning. That's why we have that deep water red grouper closure in February and March every year. But this past Thursday, ahead of that front that was approaching Friday, the fish got really excited, and anywhere from about 90 to about 120 foot of water, we're seeing a lot of good red grouper action. Seems like those red grouper are finally starting to come back in for their spawn from their spawn, and we did really well on some red grouper. We got big lane snapper, mangrove snapper, and we got a good amount of those gray snapper that we always catch. And then these bonus blackfin tuna were a great addition. Plus, we're seeing some of these guys, those hogfish. Hogfish bite hasn't been as crazy as it was, but we're still definitely picking hogfish here and there. So great to see the hogfish. This guy was pretty cool. Look at the forehead on that hogfish. Nice big chunk out of it. And then if you notice as well, the end of its tail is missing too. So this hogfish was a fighter, but he unfortunately couldn't get away from us. But hey, that's a good thing. And this gentleman in the back is the one who caught him, smiling back there. So some nice hogs, some mangroves, some lanes, some red grouper. Overall, the 10-hour trips are doing pretty well right now. Our half day trips are doing pretty well as well. Those half day trips pretty much all year catch those gray snapper, porgies, a few sea bass. Right now we're getting really big sea bass on our 5-hour half day, and we're getting the occasional hogfish mixed in. Those kingfish, they slowed down a little bit, unfortunately. We haven't really been seeing a big push of kingfish like we were. Seems like we're kind of on that slowdown period of the near shore kingfish. Offshore, past 110, 120 foot of water, lots of kingfish out deep still. But near shore, these stirred up turbulent waters, these fronts come through, get it all muddy, blow everything around. It seems like it really spread out those kingfish near shore, but you still have a great chance of catching kings near shore on our 5 and 10 hours. It just seems like it slowed down a little bit compared to how it was. But let's look at some 12-hour extreme catches. The 12-hour extreme has been doing really well. For those of you who don't know, the 12-hour extreme is basically a split charter style trip. We only allow up to 16 people. So it's basically a private charter, but you can book it like a party boat, meaning you can put one person on it, two people on it, 10 people on it. It's the same idea as a party boat trip, but it's on a private charter vessel, and we only allow up to 16 anglers. So the Flying Hub 2 12-hour extreme trip is super unique. It's a lot of fun, and that boat is sick. I've spent a lot of time on that boat this week, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'm here to tell you firsthand that that red grouper bite is going very well out in the deeper water too. So anywhere from 80, 90 to about 120 foot, we're seeing red grouper, and then anywhere from about 180 to about 220 foot of water, we're seeing a lot of these bigger grouper. Near shore and that shallower stuff, we're seeing grouper, but they're not real big. Offshore, we're seeing much larger grouper. And we're seeing these triggerfish mixed in with those red grouper, and these triggerfish are one of my favorite eating fish. Super good, white meat, crazy good. They're hard to fillet, but those triggerfish are only open until May 11th, just about 2 more weeks. So we're trying to get those triggers while we can, and they're out there more prolifically and more commonly out there in that deeper water. That's where we get those bigger ones. Mr. Ethan Schaefer here, one of our advanced anglers who's actually kind of becoming one of those fishing coaches like John Martin on our 39-hour trip. Ethan's kind of our fishing coach on our 12-hour extreme. Well, now he's becoming one. So he's out there taking photos and videos for us, and then he's also teaching people how to fish. Ethan has been doing this a really long time. He's super experienced, and he catches monster fish. This was a huge gag grouper. You can see this is a rusty belly gag grouper. A rusty belly gag grouper is just simply a gag grouper. It's not a different kind of fish. A lot of people call them rusties or rusty belly, and those are big male aggressive gags. Gag grouper, red grouper, and some other grouper species change sexes. So they all start out their lives as males. And then once they get to about 17, 18, 19 inches, 20 inches, they change into females. So most of the smaller gags are males, most of the larger gags are females. However, one or two male grouper will never change sexes, and those big male gags get this rusty color to them. The reason why is they stay in an area and they dominate that area, and that area is their area, and the female gags in that area are his. So he kind of dominates the area, and that's why they get that rusty color underneath their bellies. This one's not super rusty. A lot of times you'll see him, it almost looks black down there, and that just means he's a bad boy. He doesn't move around much. This guy was probably moving out deeper to spawn. And that's probably why that rust kind of faded on him a little bit. But monster gag grouper. Those gags open June 1st. They're open through the end of the year. Remember, gag grouper do not bite that well in the summertime. So in June, people come out looking to limit out on red snapper and catch gags. It's tough to catch a lot of gags in the summertime, but it does happen from time to time. Really, gags bite best in months ending in ER. October, November, December. My favorite time to catch gags, October into November. In December, they're biting really well, don't get me wrong, but the weather can kind of get a little turbulent. And then January, February, March, April, and into May, those gags bite really well too, but they're closed that time of year, protecting them from their spawn. So we're also catching those scamp grouper, red grouper, scamp grouper. Right now, they're open all year, and we're catching a lot of these good eating scamp grouper. And this guy's sporting his TBFC shirt, or Tampa Bay Fishing Club. Gotta love that. And a big old trigger fish there. It's a nice one. Nice big old gag again. It's going to be a good gag grouper season for sure. A lot of these gags, people see these big gag grouper and they're like, oh yeah, June 1st, gags are open. But a lot of times, come June 1st, these gags are really nowhere to be found. They go out into super deep water. They move around quite a bit. In the summertime, it's very difficult to get consistent numbers of big grouper unless you're fishing 250, 350 foot of water. And that time of year, we're staying a little shallower than that, trying to get high numbers of red snapper. But you can catch those gags in the summer. It's just a little bit more difficult. But come that fall time of year, it gets a lot easier to get those big gags. Here is a monster scamp grouper. I thought I had a big scamp this week. This guy shot me down. Got a big old broomtail scamp here. Those scamp love those smaller pinfish, those little 4, 5, 6 inch pinfish and strips of squid, and also jigs right bounced along the bottom. Those scamp grouper love them. Definitely a nice one there. There's a silk snapper. Now that one went home. He's sitting on ice. He's gone. He's going home with us. This is not a red snapper, guys. Commonly called a yellow eye snapper, known as a silk snapper. Pretty cool looking fish, isn't it? It was pretty small. Don't get me wrong, but it was still a beautiful catch and good eating. Another nice scamp grouper from that 12-hour extreme trip. And that looks like all our photos from that 12-hour extreme. But you can see here, this is just a couple 12-hour extreme trips. You can see here how great that bite is right now. And we have tons of room on our Wednesday 12-hour extreme. We're hoping that that weather is going to calm down for us and let us get out there to that 12-hour extreme area. Hopefully, knock on wood, that we'll be able to do that, because we're looking forward to going out there and getting more of those big red grouper, scamp grouper, triggerfish, a couple big mangroves, and then the vermilion snapper are monstrous. So we just showed you the 12-hour extreme pictures. Now I was out on the 12, or I was out in the Flying Hub 2 doing 12-hour trips earlier this week with Salt Strong, and let's show you some of those photos. So this is basically the same fish that you would catch on a 12-hour extreme trip, because we were fishing that same area we fish on a 12-hour extreme, except for this was 12-hour private charter fishing. There's Joe and Luke back here from Salt Strong. Those are the co-founders, the brothers who started Salt Strong. We were out there filming with those guys. We filmed a red snapper mastery course. I tell you all about red snapper and some tips and tricks to get the big red snapper. And that's a free course if you're already a Salt Strong Insider member, or if you become a Salt Strong Insider member. That's a free course. And we're going to be talking more about Salt Strong Insiders and more about Salt Strong soon. They have I can't tell you about it, but they have something that's going to blow your mind coming soon from Salt Strong. And when they're ready to announce it, we're going to have them on our show with us, and we're going to talk all about it. And that is going to be the time where everybody needs to become a Salt Strong member. It's going to be pretty dope. Nice big scamp I caught. Now, in my defense, I did catch these fish. It was fun. Nice red snapper. That's what we were out there to catch, but I couldn't help myself. I had to go to the bottom and catch some scamp. But it was a great time fishing with Salt Strong. Richie and Anthony were out there fishing, enjoying themselves too. Richie caught this monster rusty belly gag there on a pretty much a bass rod and reel, literally a bait caster like you'd cast for bass. And then Anthony got this big dog, monster amberjack. He was using my new Bull Bay rod, that 50 to 100 pound, really strong Bull Bay Hubbard's Marina rod with a 9-aught. And that 9-aught, I've done work to my 9-aught. It's got an increased drag. It's got almost 50 pounds of drag. And it was totally locked down as hard as he could turn that star drag. And that rod, that new Bull Bay rod, was totally doubled over. It's a 100-pound class rod, and this thing was smoking drag. It had to be 80, maybe more. I'm a big guy. I'm 6'7", 300 pounds, and that amberjack is a lot bigger than I am. It was pretty cool, man. That was a big fish. Now, here's those vermilion snapper I was talking about before. We're catching vermilion snapper. This thing was 24 inches long and almost 6 pounds. Now, that's not a super big fish, but when it comes to vermilion snapper, a 24-inch, almost 6-pound vermilion is behemoth. That's a dinosaur, a monster behemoth. And this is Joe Simons from Salt Strong who pulled this sucker up. They're biting right now in about 180 to about 240 foot of water up in the water column. We were looking for red snappers, so we saw this huge Christmas tree fish show. We're like, oh yeah, that's the red snapper. We get anchored up and start dropping baits, and as soon as the bait gets below the boat and starts disappearing into the water, literally your rod tip starts bouncing, and I'm like, what the heck? And I start slowing down my descent, and as soon as that bait gets 50, 60 feet under the boat, bam, and this thing's pulling drag, and it turned out to be a big vermilion. So crazy, the amount of big vermilions out in that deeper water right now, and a lot of them are up in the water column. So we switched it up, got the lighter tackle, we're knocker rigging and catching a lot of these big vermilions. So pretty cool to see these monsters. I can't get over these sides. Here's Luke Simons with his big vermilion. I mean, just look at the belly on that guy. I mean, monster vermilions. Pretty cool. There's a big red snapper. Now, I didn't catch this red snapper. Captain Anthony caught this red snapper. I got broke off twice at this spot, and Anthony pulled this big one up. So it was a little embarrassing, but hey, it happens. But we were filming a show, so we had to do some movie magic. I had to take a photo with it. Nice big triggerfish from Luke Simons. Look at the mouth on that guy. Those triggerfish, you got to be so careful with them. That triggerfish mouth will break your freaking finger, man. They are serious. They'll take a chunk right out of you, no questions asked. Those triggerfish are very hard biting fish, so be careful around those mouths. Now, we were filming with Salt Strong one day. The next day, we were just out there fishing for fun with the Salt Strong team. So here's the team from Salt Strong. Really, really, really cool guys. We got Jake here. We got Nick, Luke, Joe down here, and then Tony Acevedo. A lot of you guys know Tony. He does those spot dissections for those guys at Salt Strong. So pretty cool. But it was a great time fishing this week with those guys, and hopefully I'm going to be fishing next week on a 63-hour deep drop, unless our Fox 13 thing gets in the way. But Fox 13 starts this week. This Friday around 8:30, 8:45 a.m. We're going to be live on Fox 13, Good Day Tampa Bay. That's our local kind of regional area news station every Friday morning from starting this Friday. For the rest of the time, we're going to be on air with Fox 13 around 8:30, 8:45 a.m. talking about fishing. Hopefully I'll arrange it where I can pre-record sometimes, because I want to go fishing on Fridays a lot of times. But next week the plan is to go deep drop fishing. We're doing a 63-hour trip on the Mrs. Hub. That's our 60-foot Hatteras. It's basically like a little fishing yacht, and we're taking 5 people to go catch snowy grouper. We're going to do some sword fishing at night, and we're going to troll around for billfish anywhere from 800 to about 2,000 feet of water, way out west. So I'm really hoping I'm not going to miss that trip, because I'm really looking forward to it. But we've been catching some really cool fish on our 39-hour trip. I've got some really unique ideas here, or really unique fish to show you from our 39-hour. Oops, wrong button. So this one's not too unique. You guys know what this one is. That's a yellowtail snapper. But check out this next one here, guys. Oh, lionfish. These photos must be coming out of orders, but nice yellowtail. We've been catching a lot of nice yellowtail right now, and we got some big photos of yellowtail coming up. Lionfish, we unfortunately see a lot of lionfish. Hopefully we'll start seeing less of those lionfish soon. And there it is, guys. Check that guy out. Can anybody name that fish? Let's see if any of you can name that fish. Looking at the comments, let's see who gets it. I don't know if anybody's going to be able to get this fish pretty quickly. This one's a crazy looking guy right here. This is a fish we catch from time to time out in deeper water. We see him anywhere from 100 foot of water out most of the time. Really crazy. It almost feels like it doesn't even have a backbone. Seriously crazy feel to him. Super soft. But it looks like Jeff Molino, I'm going to go with. Jeff got it right there. That is a frogfish. Most appropriately called an oscillating frogfish, or oscillated frogfish. Crazy fish. Here's another view of it. There's actually his eyeball right here. Here's his mouth. He's got this little thing dangling over his face. Really crazy fish. That is an oscillated frogfish. Pretty unique looking and crazy feeling. It's almost like a jellyfish. It doesn't feel like it has any bones to it. Nice big old gag, super blurry photo, but it was a big gag. I did want to show you this photo because it demonstrates something. See all this white underneath that fish? All this white, almost no color? that shows that that gag has been traveling. Those fish are kind of like chameleons in the fact that they can change their shading based on their surroundings. So that fish had changed its shading because it was traveling over white sandy bottom, moving long distances. So those fish are definitely on the move this time of year. I love this transitional period around spring and fall when the temperatures are changing, things are changing, and it gets everything excited and the bite gets really good. Right now is a great time to get out there and enjoy some fishing, as you can see. Now, this is a toro, a big eye toro, pretty cool fish. There's the FWC. They go out fishing with us quite a bit. This guy is on our boats doing port sampling and tagging and research. I would say probably at least once a week, if not more. So really cool to see the FWC or Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission come out fishing with us and take that science right from the fish. These red snapper that we catch and release, the FWC biologists on board will go measure that fish. They'll take DNA samples sometimes. They'll tag that fish and then they'll release it and basically categorize that fish and take the biological samples and survey of it, and then they release it with the tag. And then later on, when we catch that fish, the tag is in it, and if you report the tag, which you really should, if you ever catch a tagged fish, make sure you call it in and you report that tag. And what happens is the FWC will send you a t-shirt and they'll send you a little note or a letter and tell you when that fish was originally caught, how big it was, where approximately where it was caught, and then you get a little letter note and you get to find out how much that fish grew and how much time and where it moved to. It's really cool program that FWC does, and of course it provides fisheries scientists a lot of information. So we really enjoy having the FWC out in the boat with us. There's another crazy fish from the 39 hour. This one is a scorpion fish. Really crazy, kind of little fuzzy photos of them, but really cool looking fish. We got a lot of big gag grouper that we caught and released recently. Some decent sized mangroves. They were a little smaller than this weekend than we would have liked. Those mangroves weren't the real big ones that we're used to. We've been a little spoiled, but the yellowtail snapper made up for it. I mean, this kid was chicken rigging and he's catching big yellowtail 2 at a time. The yellowtail bite was incredible this weekend. Look at this yellowtail. That is a 6.7 pound. Not a really good photo of it, but almost a 7 or 6.5 pound monster yellowtail. It is crazy big. So that is really cool. We saw that big yellowtail come up this weekend. Another photo of it. Just monster yellowtail. Big fat red grouper. Look at the gut on that red grouper. Holy moly. And some big porgies. John Martin, this is Omar Castillo, but John Martin caught a porgy that was 3 times the size of this one. But unfortunately, just as it was getting to the surface, it just kind of rolled over and spit the bait and spit the hook right out of its mouth, unfortunately. They have such bony mouths. Apparently, it wasn't hooked that well, and it was just able to spit the hook right on the surface. There is a nice mangrove snapper from Chris Irving. Nice mangrove snapper there. There you can kind of see the size. Not a lot of good size to those mangroves this weekend, but we caught a ton of them, and we got a lot of big yellowtail to kind of make up for it. So the yellowtail bite was crazy. We got some big red grouper. John Martin's a big guy, and that is a very big red grouper to cross him up like that. Another big red grouper from Keith Blessett, and then a mutton snapper. So the mutton snapper bite, we're still catching a lot of muttons, which is really cool. Here's a big gag grouper that was caught and released. Triggerfish, red grouper, more triggerfish. Triggerfish bite's been going really well, and we're trying to capitalize on those triggerfish before that season closes up on us. So definitely a great time to get out there and catch a lot of good eating fish. But you guys always love those 39-hour videos, so I wanted to talk to the crew real quick about that 39-hour trip. once we talk to the crew, we're also going to get Big John Martin. If you guys haven't done a 39-hour trip, you haven't met Big John Martin, basically what we do at Hubbard's Marina is we guarantee an excellent client experience with superior guest service. And the way we do that is we have a really great team, from the office to the reservations to the sales, all the way onto the boat, the captain and crew. Now, on our 39-hour trips, we also go a step above that. We have a fishing coach on board, and Mr. John Martin is the fishing coach. So we're going to talk to him real quick. We're going to talk to him first. I changed my mind. And then we'll watch the video with the crew, okay? So let's hear what John has to say about this 39-hour. At the end of his video, he's going to give you a really important tip. If you're thinking about doing a 39 or 44-hour or any long-range trip, even if it's not with us, really cool tip coming from John Martin. Now, John has been doing these 39-hour trips for over 40 years. He's been doing this since well before I was born, so pretty cool guy. Good morning, John.
Well, good morning. Great to be here at John's Pass in Hubbard's Marina. Beautiful morning.
Yes, sir, it is. Now, I know you just got off that 39-hour trip. I wanted to ask you a few questions. How was it?
Well, first of all, I mean, it was totally opposite of the way it looks now when we went out. It was it was a bit bumpy on the way out, but it got progressively better till it was slick calm on the way in. But the fishing was solid throughout the trip. The first part, the trolling was a bit sketchy on the way out, I think, because the water's been so murky. But we did good on the Kings once we got out there. Yeah. And there were a few big hookups that we didn't manage to get over the rail. But the mango fishing was pretty strong during the first part of the evening. The size was a little smaller than we normally get, but we made up for it, and I'll tell you about that in just a moment. But the beeliners, anything on chicken rig was just tearing it up. We actually had a couple of huge porgies come in. One actually made it over the rail, Omar's, and I got to tell you, I got no proof of it, but I had one of the biggest porgies, if not the biggest one I've ever seen.
Show the size of it.
Right? Oh, he was at least, I am not kidding you. He was like this. And you could ask some other people.
Unbelievable.
I think it would have been a record, but I can't prove it. But he was right at the surface, and he spit the whole hook and bait out and just went right back down like he said, good morning, and I'll see you later.
Thanks for dinner.
Yeah, but there was some great yellowtail fishing. One of them in particular ended up with a lady won the jackpot with it. Was 6.7 pounds, and man, it was thick.
6.7 pound yellowtail?
Yeah, and it was really thick and heavy, and she won the actual jackpot. So that was pretty cool.
Wow.
I tell you, there were so many gags biting in red snapper. I just hope they're still there. I got their name on a couple of them, so I'm hoping to come back June 1st and get them. But I think I set a personal record for myself. I got broke off 12 times on this trip.
Oh my gosh.
And I landed about 4 or 5 gags, but on one spot I actually got broke off 6 times.
Oh,
and I was using light tackle 40-pound test because the gags aren't open. I never go below 60 when they're open. But on one particular one, I thought sure I had another gag on, and fortunately I got one of the regulars to video it because I had him up off the bottom, and it turned out to be a red grouper. It got to be at least 15 pounds, so you'll have to check out the video, and that when Bob Haverson puts it out, you'll see it. We got a good shot of that. So I was like complaining, and then all of a sudden I said, gaff. But the mango fishing really got hot actually on the last stop before sundown.
Yeah.
The sundowner was excellent. I actually caught 5 mangoes, all really nice size in a row. 5 baits, 5 mangoes in a row. That shows you how hot it was at that point. And when we first pulled up on that particular stop, I can only imagine what was happening down below because, I mean, it was insta-bite. And
nice.
It was big red snapper. We had to plow through quite a few of them before they were just out competing the mangoes.
Yep.
And I got broke off a couple of times there. But then the mangoes turned on, and we left them biting. We had to get on in, so that bodes well for maybe next trip.
Yeah, there you go.
But the fishing was solid throughout.
So you mentioned the mangroves were a little bit small, and you mentioned what made up for it. But could you emphasize that what was special about this trip with those yellowtail snapper?
Oh yeah, especially like I say, 6.7 pound, and it was more thick than it was long. But the yellowtails were coming in pretty steady. None of them matched the 6.7. They were what I would call average size. There were several nice red grouper caught. The beeliners were amazing on a couple of stops. I mean, there were one when I had a 3-hook chicken rig on, and I had three of them actually on at one time, and it was taking drag. I'm not kidding you.
Wow.
Because they were all three of them had to be 2 pounds each.
Wow.
And then they can really fight. It's like a push me pull you thing. But I pretty much everybody, I would say the boat limited out on big vermilion snapper.
Nice.
For sure.
Yeah, we caught a vermilion snapper Monday on that flying hub too. It was 24 inches, and I thought it was a red snapper when it came up. It was that big. It had to be pushing 6 pounds. It was monstrous.
Yeah, and there were some decent triggerfish, not as good as the last couple of trips, but we did get some keeper triggerfish. I understand they're about to go out, so we tagged a few of them, so to speak. And I didn't see any scamp of any consequence come up. But as I say, there were big porgies, big beeliners, lots of nice snapper on the second part of the trip.
Yeah.
And they bit a little bit all day long, which was kind of good because sometimes you get out there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and it's kind of dead. But there were fish biting all day long, and that's always great.
Now on the scamp, I know you guys were fishing a little shallower this trip. You were closer to like 140 to like 160, 170. It seems like those scamp bite closer to 180 plus.
Yeah, the real decent ones, when you see them come up and they're like 5 pounds or better, they're usually in about 200 to 220, 180 like you say on. We never did quite get out that far. I think it had to do more with the weather at the time.
Yeah.
And we were a little bit concerned. I talked to Captain Brian about that, and he was a little bit concerned about getting on out that far. But the weather turned out to be just like you see it here, absolutely gorgeous.
Nice. Could you explain for the people watching one big thing that I think kind of trips people up on this 39-hour and the 44-hour is timing. The first trip you do is always such a steep learning curve because you're getting the feel for the trip, how it works, how the timing.
Now, guys, this is the tip I was talking about. This is so important. When a lot of people go on their first 39-hour trip, this is what's going to make the difference for you. Right, what John's about to explain. So make sure you listen up if you're planning on doing a 39-hour or 44-hour or any long-range trip. Timing is everything.
Schedule works, all that kind of stuff. Can you explain to the viewers what you do as far as timing goes? What I mean by that is the trip leaves at 3, it gets back 2 days later at 6 a.m. and you fish for 20 hours. How do you kind of manage your time to make sure you're ready for that 20 hours of fishing?
Well, I'll tell you what happens, because that's an excellent question. And what happens is people, especially if they've never been out before, they're really excited. And I got to tell you, it doesn't matter if you've never been out before or you've been out hundreds of times like me. If you're into fishing, you're always really excited. Your adrenaline's pumping, and you have to make yourself get some rest. That's the biggest thing. And it's important on all the trips, but especially that 44-hour trip, because a lot of people don't time it right, and about halfway through the night, because we usually start about sundown, they're worn out and they go to sleep. And you know, my good buddy, your grandfather, Captain Wilson Hubbard, talked about, he had so many sayings, but the most famous one is if you're too busy to go fishing, you're just too busy. And I've got one that I say, if you want to catch the fish of your dreams, you got to be fishing while others are dreaming. Because by far the best bite overall is at night.
Yep.
And especially for mangrove snapper, which is obviously our bread and butter. And even for the red snapper, when the season opens, they bite better at night as well. And gags too. But so I would recommend people kind of, it's hard to curtail your excitement, because I tell you, it's still hard for me.
Yeah.
But you need to make yourself get some rest on the way out and be prepared to fish all night long.
Yep.
If you got to rest, the best time to rest is between stops, obviously, or like between, say, 1 o'clock and 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, that midday doldrums.
Especially in the summertime.
Yeah.
Especially in the summertime.
When it's hot and calm in the summertime, that 1 to 3 p.m. bite can kind of stink sometimes.
Yeah, and it usually starts picking up around like 4 o'clock till the sundown. And so you definitely want to be fishing that. So yes, absolutely. get some rest on the way out is by far the biggest thing to do, especially young kids and stuff. They're so excited. Next thing you know, they're out of sleep and everything else. But you will wake up and see that you've missed a heck of a bite if you sleep anytime during the night.
Yeah. What I know what I do, and I know kind of what you do. The day of your trip, for example, let's use the Friday 39 hour as our example. You leave 3 p.m. Friday, you come home 6 a.m. Sunday. We start fishing around 12 p.m. Friday night, or as late as like 2 a.m. Saturday morning. You fish till about 7 to 9 p.m. Saturday night. I know for me, Friday morning, I try to wake up extremely early, 3, 4 a.m., get everything ready, get my day started, and that way by the time I get on that boat at 3 o'clock, I've already been up for 12 hours, and it makes it easier for me to catch some sleep between 3, 4, 5 p.m. and by the time we start fishing that night, sometime around midnight or just after. And I know you kind of do the same thing because you got a long drive.
Yeah, it takes me about 3 hours to get here. I live in a little town called Hawthorne, Florida. It's in the Gainesville area, and yeah, I drive down, and I've always tried to catch my own bait, although Hubbard certainly has plenty of bait for you here. It's just kind of part of my routine, and I think it makes me a better fisherman, actually, because I get a feel for it. But yes, absolutely, it definitely helps so that you can go to bed by 8 o'clock at night and sleep for 4 or 5 hours before we start. Without a doubt, that will work.
Yeah, because you got a 7 to 9 hour ride out, and if you stay up trolling, drinking some beers, having a good time, excited about fishing, you're not going to make it the full 20 hours of fishing.
That's true. And this time of year, trolling can be sometimes sketchy, but there's plenty of action. If you're trying to get kings and tunas, there's plenty of that action once we get out there anchored up. The best time actually to target kingfish and tuna is that last like 30 to 45 minutes between, or basically the hour between sunrise, before, I guess as I'm saying, as the sun's beginning to rise, about 30 minutes before.
Don't give them too many tricks,
30
John.
minutes after. That is the best time. So
yeah, for sure.
And if I'm on the boat, I'll help you any way I can, always.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, John, you're kind of like the fishing coach out there, right?
Yeah, well, I tell you, one of the reasons I do that, and first of all, I'm really grateful for the opportunity to do it that you guys have given me. But when I first started fishing, probably before Dylan was even born with the Hubbards, back then there was a whole different kind of regulars on here. Yeah. And they literally would tell you nothing. They would literally turn and...
Now, what John's about to talk about, John was one of our first Regulars Club members ever. His Regulars Club number was like less than 50. That's how long he's been a member. Most Regulars Club members are like 5,000 and something. John's number was less than 50. That's how long he's been in the club. Started fishing with us back in the late 60s, early 70s. So what he's talking to is how the boat used to be, how our Regulars Club used to be, and it's been such a change now to today. So let's listen in.
And like you'd watch them, and they would turn. They wouldn't even show you how they're rigging. If they caught a fish, you ask, "What'd you get that on?" "Oh, little piece of squid." They would never tell you, and so I had to kind of steal my tricks, so to speak. Look and watch and just look over their shoulder and determine. And I learned from that, and I made a point that I was never going to be that way. Yeah. And ever since then, I'll tell anybody if they want to know what I'm doing, how I'm doing it. I do my written fishing reports and give tips. But on the boat, if you see me there, don't hesitate to ask me. I don't push my way in, but if you want to know what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, I am more than happy to explain it to you, because I don't want people to be treated the way I was originally treated. Not by Hubbards, but by some of the people who are going on now. I miss them in some sense.
Yeah, I mean...
there was a different time back then.
Yeah, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, a lot of people did commercial fishing out here. They would catch their fish and sell them at the end of it. Nowadays, that's been made illegal. We've definitely kind of shifted the age of TripAdvisor, Yelp. We're definitely more focused on the guest experience. You've seen it all.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I know we can't sell fish, and I used to sell fish back in those days you were talking about. It used to be legal, but sometimes people will ask me, well, how was the trip? And in my mind, I'm calculating the value of fish because I don't tell them that. But in my mind, I'm thinking, well, this trip would have paid for itself and then some. So I'm saying, well, it was really good, And if it was like I would have only made $100, that's what in my mind I'm just figuring. I'll go, well, it was fair, and people don't realize, but that's how I'm calculating it because I remember back in those days, and I sure miss like your grandpa. He was one heck of a character.
Yeah.
And I say that with all the affection. It was one of the sad things that did happen on this particular trip. I had a rod built that memorialized your father, and it actually got broken on this trip. It got caught up in my own rack, and so I was very disappointed to lose a rod, but especially that one. So I will be getting another one made to honor your grandpa, I assure you.
And what did he always say?
He said if you're too busy to go fishing, you're just too darn, and actually he had a little bit more colorful thing, but in this day and age, we won't say that. Y'all let you make it guess. You're just too darn busy, let's put it that way.
Yes, sir. Thank you, John.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Have a good 3-hour drive home.
Yeah, come join us.
Cool. That was a great video. John's a great guy. A lot of you guys have met John over the years fishing with us. He used to just come out fishing, but lately we've kind of transformed him into almost a pseudo employee. When the boat's moving, when he's not fishing, he's there to help you. He's willing to show you, help you tie knots, do whatever you need done to help you catch more fish. So he's a great tool on that 39-hour trip. And besides John, you got your crew members, and here's your 2 crew members on the 39-hour trips.
What's going on, guys?
Hey, how's it going?
So, how was your 39-hour trip?
At the end of this video, we're going to show you something really comical. These 2 guys are clowns. They have a lot of fun out there on the 39-hour trip, and we got something funny coming up.
Good. The weather was supposed to be rough when we got there, but it really wasn't. The weather was much less than what they called for offshore. I hear we had some weather inshore yesterday, but the weather was nice out there. Didn't get hot. I wore jeans the whole trip. Just nice weather, good fishing. We had really good daytime fishing and afternoon fishing on the trip, which is uncommon on a lot of trips, but did very well on big mangroves and big vermilions in the daytime.
Nice.
Yeah, those big vermilions in the daytime. The sun came out, and the big vermilions would fire off. We get a little lull in the action, and right behind them were the mangroves. And we had a great daytime mangrove bite, great grade of fish on those. So that was very surprising and steady, constant for us. The night bite featured a lot of yellowtails.
Yeah, we got big yellowtails at night. Some mangroves. The mangroves were smaller at night, but big yellowtails mixed in there with them. And vermilions, porgies, stuff like that. No pelagics this trip. People weren't really fishing for them this trip. We could have had a couple. Ed was trolling, had a couple bonitas on the troller.
Yeah.
But
so I was able to gaff a couple pelagics.
Jason gaffed one.
Right, but we generally kind of stayed away from them just because, gun shy and didn't have a throwing gaff on the boat.
Last week,
gosh.
we didn't do a video on this. So, Will, why don't you explain what he's commenting about?
Correctly. We had a big kingfish. I had a
Will
very
had a
big kingfish on last trip. And Jason's got a little carpal tunnel in his wrist. But it's still swimming around with the gaff in it right now, long story short.
That monster went down, broke that gaff off, and
Will,
just has the hook
all right,
still in
these
him.
2 are being too shy and nice to each other. Basically, what had happened was Will caught like a tournament-winning 65 lifetime huge kingfish right up in the pulpit. He was screaming and yelling because if you know Will, he is super excited when he gets a big fish. He'll call me on the sat phone to tell me about the fish he just caught sometimes when it's a big one. So Will was pumped. He's yelling at Jason to gaff him. Jason comes running up out of nowhere, sticks the fish, and this 65-pound kingfish yokes the gaff out of his hand and drags it away and breaks the line.
Yeah. He never quit running once he got the gaff in him.
The only option I had was to perhaps maybe bring that left hand over and just go with them. And see if they could find me.
So the Wild West tournament winning kingfish might come in today with a gaff.
With a hole in him,
or a bamboo gaff hanging from it.
Or, just a gaff.
Hopefully those guys bring our gaff back.
I know. Yeah.
At least it wasn't a customer's fish, right?
Yeah, it could have been much worse.
It could have been much. We can laugh about it because it wasn't.
We can, yeah.
If it was Jighead Ed's fish, then Jay might not be here anymore.
He'd be dead.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a good deal. Nah, that wouldn't work that well. And ironically enough, we were doing a tutorial video on knocker rigging for mangrove snapper when we hooked this kingfish on what?
A 4-aught circle hook.
4-aught boat circle hook, no wire.
Yep.
And yeah, no
Crazy.
landing.
Yeah.
Biggest kingfish you've ever caught on 40-pound test in a 4-aught circle, no wire.
Yeah, it was a monster. It's a stupid one.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate your time, guys. You have a good night. I know you're going home, going to bed after that long trip. We'll see you all next week.
All right, dude, take it easy.
Thanks, Cap.
So that was the story. So basically, Will was filming a tutorial for you guys on how to knocker rig fish. So he's back there knocker rigging with a super light spinning rod with light tackle, a light leader, and a hook, on a small hook, just 40-pound monofilament and a 5-aught circle hook or 4-aught circle hook. And all of a sudden he hooks this monster fish. It's peel and drag. It takes him from the port corner all the way across the bow to the starboard side, and then he finally gets the fish to the surface when he's back in the starboard bow. So almost did a full lap around the boat. It was almost a 20-minute long fight. Finally gets to the fish to the surface. He's been screaming, yelling, carrying on, and he's so super pumped. Finally gets the fish to the surface, and Jay's screaming and yelling, excited. He goes to stick the fish, and let's show you what happens. Man, this is too funny. We actually uploaded this video to our YouTube channel. We just kind of cut it down, so you just got the highlight reel, but we're going to show it to you here real quick on our Hubbard's Marina YouTube channel. We got tons of great videos, and this is one of them. So this is the newest one. Too funny right here. One of the funniest videos. Funny but sad. So there's Will. He's been screaming and yelling.
Will.
Look at that. Right at the sunset.
Monster kingfish.
Wait on him. Just wait on him.
Go. Sticky. Oh, come on. God.
You can see him reach out for it.
Oh, come on.
See, he reaches out with one hand. Look how far he reached down with one hand. There was no way when he sucked this fish.
Oh, come on.
Look, he's all the way.
God.
Oh my God.
Here.
There it was. Just peels drag and then breaks off, unfortunately. Crazy big fish, though. It was really fun to watch. It was a great fight for Will. They had a great time doing it. But basically, on these 39 and 44-hour trips, when we have a lot of people on board, the crew is busy. They're not fishing. They're just focused on helping you guys while the boat's fishing. But on that trip, there was only 15 paying customers fishing on board. Only 15 people. It was a super light load. So the crew were able to kind of work in shifts, and they got a lot of fishing time in with the customers and with the crew on board. And Will was doing some fishing for mangroves, and he hooked that big monster kingfish. And Will's screaming, hollering, super excited. Jason's super pumped up, and Captain Brian standing behind him, the wise fisherman. Take your time, slow it down, wait for him. And Will's yelling, go, gaff him. And Jason reaches down with his fingertips and tries to gaff a 60-pound green kingfish. And you saw what happened. Just peel, drag, and that line touched that gaff and broke. So that is a great example of why you always listen to the captain. And you got to not get that buck fever. If that fish is green, you got to fight him down a little bit. But a really funny video. People are already leaving lots of comments on that video. So after the stream's over, you have to check out our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe and check out that video and leave a comment for Jason. Because tomorrow morning I'm going to show him the video that we posted. But a lot of fun for sure. And it was always a great time out there on the 39-hour trips, and the crew have a good time. They make it an enjoyable trip for sure. But some of you guys were asking about John's Pass and what's biting around John's Pass. So we talked to Brian, our commercial bait fisherman who goes out and catches all our pinfish and fiddler crabs and whitebait, who also spends a lot of time inshore fishing. And he's going to talk about the snook and pompano and the action around John's Pass.
How you doing, Brian?
Oh, doing pretty good.
So how's inshore fishing this week?
It's awesome. It just keeps getting better. The hotter it gets, the hotter the bite gets.
Nice. I've seen a lot of pompano this week. Is that kind of true for you as well?
Yeah, it's pompano are hit or miss. And when you think you got them figured out, they move so much that you're like, oh, the pompano bites real hot at John's Pass, and you go there the next day and they're gone. They're at the next pass over. It's always just trying to figure out where they're at. Once you find them, it's real good right now.
Yeah, and they seem to only be biting for an hour or two, and then all of a sudden they're moving on.
Yeah, that's the main thing, is figuring out, like, more than figuring out where they're at, is figuring out the tide, and then hitting as many places as you can in that short amount of tide, trying to figure out where they're at. So
I gotcha. Now, how about the snook? I've been seeing a lot of those caught too.
yeah, they're moving on the beach pretty heavy right now. It's not my favorite time of year to snook fish, just because right now they're kind of spread out. There's still a lot of them up the bay that haven't made their way down, so there's kind of snook everywhere right now. But your best shot at getting a good snook right now is probably getting some pinfish and pigfish and going out to a pass.
Yep. Any one of these passes like the jetty, and then with those pinfish and pigfish for snook, how would you recommend rigging them?
I like to hook them through the nose, but everybody's different. I'll be fishing with my buddies, and one of them's hooking it through the back, one's hooking it through the tail, and I'm hooking it through the nose.
What
So-
about as far as the tackle goes?
It really depends. If I'm fishing on the beach, I like to use 30-pound leader and lighter tackle. If I'm fishing jetties and places there's a lot of rocks or bridge fenders, then I'm going 50-pound to 100, which is really overkill. But I hate losing a fish, because when you lose heavy tackle or any kind of tackle, you're probably killing that fish, or at least messing its life up pretty good.
Yeah.
So
What about the size hook on the beach?
it depends on the size bait you're using, because the snook can be finicky. Like one day they were eating big pinfish and pigfish, and we had to use 4-aught, 5-aught hooks. And then the next day all they'll eat is little mud minnows and shrimp. So
And then you're using 2-aught hooks.
yeah, then I'm using 1-aughts
Yeah.
with 15-pound leader, because they're being so finicky.
So it really, do you think the water clarity has a lot to do with that?
Yeah, the water clarity and just what the snook are eating in that particular area too. Because I found in the passes and on the bridges they want those big baits, and when you get onto the actual beach where they're feeding on the little greenbacks, you kind of want to match that hatch and either use a little shrimp or I do good on the mud minnows because it's something just a little different. And then the greenbacks is always a good way to go. They're just hard. If you don't have a boat, it's hard to transport them. Is the only tough thing about the whitebait.
Yeah, but you can pick those up here at Hubbard's Marina, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, as far as mud minnows go, for those of you watching, can you explain what a mud minnow is? It kind of looks like a snook, but it has vertical stripes, right?
Yeah, they're striped little fish that can live in basically no oxygen. They live in like stagnant water. You'll find them in little like pools behind Fort DeSoto and stuff, in that warm 100-degree nasty water. And you're like, how is anything living in here? But the great thing about them is you hardly even need a bubbler. You could, with a little tiny bubbler and a 5-gallon bucket, you can keep 10 dozen alive for like 3 days. So
Oh, wow.
that's the good thing about them.
Cool. And then how about the trout or redfish? You seen any of those?
Yeah, actually, the trout have moved onto the beach real heavy. All the passes have them right now. We got a couple really nice ones yesterday. And as far as the redfish, the population just hasn't seemed to be as good as it has in like the past few years. I think the red tide hit them harder than anything else around here. I know they're catching them really well up the bay, but I fish mostly this area, Jungle Terrace and stuff. And there's redfish, but it's a little slow. Working the docks around Jungle Parada, it's been producing some small ones, and then over in Fort DeSoto, there's been some nice little schools of 10 or 15 fish, but not those 100, 200 fish schools you'd see normally this time of year.
For redfish, what's your favorite bait for those guys?
I'm an artificial guy for redfish. I like throwing a Z-Man with an 1/8 ounce jig head, and I like walking areas like Fort DeSoto where you can, on a lower tide, where you can see those tails and sneak up wade fishing and get those cool
Wade
casts.
fishing with a Z-Man. All right.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Any other tips or tricks you could think of?
No, I'd say this is a good time of year to get, if you're fishing the passes and just trying to figure out fishing around here, come out to the passes and use live shrimp, because there's been a lot of big black drum picked up, a few redfish, a lot of whiting, trout, pompano. The shrimp's pretty much like the go out and see what's out there bait. So I'd say shrimp's the bait if you're just trying to get into fishing and you're fishing a lot of the passes. Shrimp's been the hot bite lately.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it, Brian. You have a good day.
You too.
All right, so that was kind of your inshore fishing report. If you're wondering what's been going on inshore, but I do want to show you here real quick. We got that big, we got a pretty cool looking fish on the 39-hour trip. Check that guy out.
Excuse me, let me
Nice
get it.
tiger shark.
Shot at
This is one of a few
Here you go,
sharks
guys, a
we caught on
juvenile
the
tiger
39
shark.
hour.
They can slide him out there a little bit. There he is.
Juvenile,
Pretty
but
colors on that thing.
beautiful fish.
We're just gonna break the line.
There we go. Word. Hey, that's another one that's nice fish, sir.
Yeah.
I can remember I caught one about like that.
Fish. I love those tiger sharks.
Little,
You see how blue the water is too. Out there in that deep water, that water is just so blue and beautiful. So nice to get out there in the deep water. Now, we're going to show you this big porgy that Omar pulled up. Check this guy out. Big porgy. And remember, John caught one that was
slack
3
up on
times
that
the
side of the
size.
boat.
So a big,
You're under
big
the boat,
porgy
slack up.
comes
Slack
up,
up.
and
He's got a
then
fish
John
on.
catches an even bigger
Slack up. Put it in free spool. Slack up.
So sometimes that'll happen. There it is, big old porgy.
Here. Hang on. Slack up. Give it blue
Monster
line. Give him
porgy.
total slack.
Oh, almost missed it. There it is. Gets in the boat. Oh man, monster porgy. Those porgies are good eating too, man. They're a lot of fun to catch, and they're great eating fish for sure. But we got a few more photos here, and then we're gonna get into your questions. We've got some private charter photos. We've been doing really well on our private charter trips, catching a lot of these red grouper, catching some big red grouper on the hub, the Flying Hub 1, the Mrs. Hub. The hub runs the most often, and we're catching a lot of grouper on the hub 10 and 12-hour trips. Captain Garrett ran a 12-hour trip this past week and caught a load of red grouper, almost a boat limit. Captain Dave's been running a lot of these 12-hour trips. This was an 8-hour private charter with Vet Catch. If you're familiar with Vet Catch, if you're not familiar, definitely check them out. If you're a veteran, definitely check them out, because they will give you free 10-hour private or free 8-hour private fishing charters with us at Hubbard's Marina. So Vet Catch is basically an organization, it's a charity, and they get veterans out in the water fishing to meet other veterans and just spend the day out in the water together, building camaraderie and catching fish and having a great time. So Vet Catch is a super cool organization. We're super blessed to be able to work with those guys. Bill Rutherford is the guy who runs Vet Catch, and he's actually overseas in Afghanistan, and he coordinates these trips and plans these trips with us. So we really appreciate Bill Rutherford and the guys at Vet Catch for putting these trips together with us. Caught a big red grouper, some red grouper from the private charters, and then this was that private charter that Captain Garrett ran. They caught a ton of big red grouper, and then they got some bonus blackfin tuna as well. So the bite has been really good. It's time to get out in the water, either a 5 or 10 or 12-hour trip or a private charter with us at Hubbard's Marina. But all this to say that the fishing is really good right now. with the weather, we just had a low pressure system move through this past weekend, Friday and Saturday. Now we have a high pressure system settling in on the area. This week, Tuesday, Wednesday is going to be a little bumpy offshore because that high pressure. Inshore and near shore, it shouldn't really be bumpy. This whole week looks good, but Tuesday and Wednesday will be a little bit bumpy, like 2 foot inshore or 2 foot near shore. But offshore, it might get a little chunkier, closer to 3.5 foot there Tuesday. So the high pressures, what'll happen is this fishing gets a little bit slow there. So Tuesday might be a little slow fishing, but the bite was really good today. Tomorrow the bite should be really good ahead of that high pressure. And then the second half of this week and into this weekend should be really awesome. This coming weekend coming up, Friday, Saturday, look gorgeous. So if you want to get out on a trip, definitely call us, get them booked up now, and capitalize on that great weather we have. And the month of May is awesome because you have great fishing, you have a great bite, and there's not a lot of people around. Some of you guys were asking about trips where you can fish with the crew and times where there's less people on the boat. Now is the time, because come June, when red snapper season opens, all the trips are sold out. And we have people that wait all year and only go fishing in red snapper season. And I don't get it, because that time of year, or that time of the year, we sell out. Trips are sold out. I mean, some red snapper trips were sold out back in January and February. So those trips are booked. There's people everywhere in our area. June, July, super busy time of year where trips are more full. This time of year, we had a 39-hour trip 2 weeks ago with 15 people on it. So if you want to get out on a 39-hour trip, do one in the month of May, before May 31st, when red snapper season opens, and you'll have a great opportunity to spend a lot of time with Will and Jason. Might even get to use their famous cane pole. Do a Flying Hub 2 12-hour extreme trip with Anthony or Richie. Book a private charter with Garrett or Dave or Captain Joe, Captain Brian, all those guys. We even brought back my buddy, Captain Sal. He just did his first trip back today. Captain Sal caught a lot of nice big red grouper. That was a captain that I used to work for when I was a kid. I was 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, and I was a mate for Captain Sal back in the day. So it's really cool to see him come on back, and he's still got it. He's still catching a lot of fish. One of the questions I heard during this was, what's the best vertical jig? The best vertical jig, in my opinion, is what is going to be able to keep you straight up and down. Vertical jigs are just that, vertical. They need to be straight up and down to operate properly. So you need to kind of have a large variety of jigs and different weights, because if the current's running a certain type of way, or if the boat's swinging, you need to have a strong enough vertical jig to keep you vertical. If your line's getting dragged out by the current or the boat's swinging real hard, the vertical jigs don't work as well. Now, there's a large variety of vertical jigs. There's slow pitch, flat fall, diamond jigs, knife jigs. There's a bunch of different varieties. And when you're going out jig fishing, you want to have a large variety and different varying sizes, meaning different varying weights. A lot of times, the really in-depth, super experienced jig fishermen will have the same lure in the same color in 3 or 4 different sizes, and then they'll have another lure in the same type, the same shape, but they'll have it in another couple sizes. And the reason why is you want to be able to change the size or weight of the lure based on the current and the conditions out there. So, and the depth of water. You're fishing deeper, you're using a heavier jig to keep yourself more straight up and down. So the best vertical jig is the one you're comfortable and confident in, or the one you have available, but you also want to make sure you're staying vertical. One question I saw was the yellowtail snapper. What's the best bait and technique to catch them? We don't get a ton of yellowtail snapper in our area. We're pretty far north as far as yellowtail snapper are concerned. The Keys, the Bahamas, those are places that are known for their yellowtail. Here we catch yellowtail from time to time. This is one of those times a year where we catch a ton of big yellowtail. And my favorite method for yellowtail snapper is just a cube of squid or a little strip of squid. that little cube or strip of squid is a great producer for yellowtail snapper and those vermilion snapper. That's what we catch a lot of those guys on. And the chicken rig, the high-low rig, that's a great method. You have 2 hooks or 3 hooks. You have the weight on the bottom, and then you have like 6 to 10 inches of line and then a hook coming off of it, and then another 6 to 10 inches of line and another hook coming off of it. That is a chicken rig or a high-low rig, and that put a little bit of squid on that thing, drop it to the bottom on a 39-hour trip. You're going to get a lot of chances for porgies, vermilions, and also yellowtail. Now, the high-low rig or the chicken rig does not work for grouper or mangrove snapper or the other quality fish. It's really just meant, in my opinion, to be either used with squid or shrimp, and you're catching the smaller good-eating fish like yellowtail snapper, vermilion snapper, or porgies. In other areas, they use that high-low rig or that chicken rig for a variety of fish, and you can catch really good quality fish on it. Here, the smarter gag grouper, red grouper, scamp grouper, or mangrove snapper, red snapper, they're not going to bite that chicken rig as often or at all. So we have some people come in fishing from California or up in the Northeast or the East Coast of Florida thinking that chicken rig is the bomb.com and that's all they want to fish with. But it doesn't work as well in our local area. Our fish have a lot of pressure. They see a lot of hooks, a lot of baits, and a lot of line. So you have to kind of change your technique based on where you're fishing. And it definitely helps to have that fish finder rig, in my opinion. The fish finder rig is my favorite, which is just simply an egg sinker on your main line, a swivel, and then about a 4 or 5 foot leader and your hook. That's what I call a fish finder rig, and that's what I'm using 99.9% of the time when you're offshore fishing. Another question I saw was, is Captain Bobby still running those 12-hour trips? Yes, Captain Bobby runs every Sunday. He'll run a 10-hour trip, and then come red snapper season, he'll be running those 12-hour trips, but he does not work all of them or most of them anymore. Another question I saw was, what is the best trolling bait for tuna? I really like the Rapala X-Rap Magnum 30s for the tuna. We sell those in our shop. You can pick them up right before your trip, or a cedar trolling plug. The cedar plugs work really well for tuna as well for trolling. And then we catch a lot of tuna while we're knocker rigging. You can only knocker rig and flatline fish on lighter load trips. Come red snapper season, it's impossible to knocker rig or flatline fish because the boat's more full. But this time of year, when there's super light loads, you can knocker rig, you can flatline, you can vertical jig. You have a lot of flexibility, and that's a great way to catch those tuna on a vertical jig or a flatline, or just by chance while you're knocker rigging for mangrove snapper. A lot of times we'll pick up blackfin tuna like that, or in Will's case, a 60-pound kingfish. You never know. Another question I saw was, is there any live bait around Johns Pass? We're catching a ton of live bait around Johns Pass. Here at Hubbard's Marina, we now sell live pinfish, pigfish, squirrelfish. We sell live whitebait or greenbacks, and we sell live fiddler crabs. Plus, we have frozen cigar minnows, frozen octopus, frozen sardines, frozen bonita, a large variety of frozen baits and live baits as well. Plus, we have all the beer and tackle you need too. So definitely Hubbard's Marina, we have a large selection in our tackle shop. Another question I saw was, on that 39-hour trip, how often do you change rigs? Do you have to change rigs a lot? Yes, I mean, on a 39-hour trip, you get about 20 hours of fishing time. So if you're fishing for 20 hours, catching a lot of fish, you do have to change your rigs quite a bit. Typically, I bring about 6 to 8 different backups for my rigs. I mean, this trip, John was telling me he broke off like 8-9 times. So sometimes you need even more backup. So definitely when you're fishing for 20 hours straight, you're going to need some extra rigs. I typically would safely say most trips, 6 to 8 backup leads, hooks, swivels for each one of your setups is a good idea. But the more the merrier. And on that 39-hour trip, you have a lot of room, so you could bring a bigger tackle box. Or you can rent a rod and reel. If you rent a rod and reel for any one of our trips, we provide the rod, reel, and all your tackle. But if you have your own specialty tackle, you can bring your own rod and reel, avoid the rod rental fee, but you have to make sure you have plenty of tackle. Another question was the best bait for vermilion snapper. It's the same as that yellowtail bait. That cube of squid or that small strip of squid is the best bait for vermilion snapper in our area for sure. Another question was on the 39-hour trip, do you need sandballs or chum for those yellowtail snapper? Typically, no. You wouldn't chum on our 39-hour trip or pretty much any of our party boat trips. The reason why is the crew does a little bit of chumming when we're targeting pelagics or we're targeting a certain species, but typically in 150, 200 foot of water, a sandball that you throw in on the surface, it's not going to hit the bottom until it's 300 feet away from the boat. And that will actually pull fish away from where we're fishing. So no, we don't do a lot of chumming out there in deep water. And the chumming that we do is just natural. When you have 15, 20, 30 lines in the water and you're catching fish, you're dropping baits, you get what's called a natural chum slick developed. And that natural chum slick will get those fish excited coming up to the boat. So you don't need to waste money or time chumming. Another question was hook color. Does it matter what color hook you use? Well, here in the Gulf of Mexico, you can't use stainless steel hooks. So the silver color hooks are out. I like using those nickel plated hooks, those dark colors. Basically, it's like a chromish black color. Those are the hooks that I prefer. Owner hooks, Gamakatsu, Mustad, Trocar, a lot of those different style hooks. I'm kind of partial to owner hooks myself. Those are my favorite style hooks, but I use a lot of the Bass Pro Shops offshore angler hooks. I use a lot of Mustads as well, but typically I'm going to a tackle shop, I'm going to look at the owner hooks. Another question was about cancellations. Occasionally, cancellations do occur. If you're a traveling fisherman who's flying in from Michigan or New York or California for one of our trips, just make sure you pay attention to your email, and please give us your email when you book, because what we do is we stay in contact with you. If we have a trip coming up and we know some weather might affect it, we'll shoot you an email a day, 2 days, or 3 days out to let you know about that weather and how there's a chance your trip might be in trouble. And then as that trip gets closer, we'll send you more email updates. And if you're going to fly in to go fishing, always get flight insurance, because things happen. Weather happens, mechanical malfunctions happen, crew gets sick, captains get sick, things happen. When you're offshore fishing, there's so many variables that can affect your trip. Now, granted, we've been doing this for over 90 years and 4 generations, so we do a really good job at trying to prevent anything from canceling a trip last minute, but things can happen. For example, last year we were loading for a 12-hour night snapper. Everybody was sitting there at the dock ready to get on the boat, and the live well pipe, the plumbing underneath the boat busted, and it shot salt water into our generator and shut down our generator. And $20,000 in repairs later, the boat was finally back up and running, but we had to tell 40 people that were standing there ready to get on the boat that the trip was canceled. And it stinks. It sucks. We hate to do it, but things do happen. When you're offshore fishing, your safety is our number one concern. You having a good experience, a fun experience is our second concern. Catching fish is our third concern. And the safety of the passengers being our primary concern is what sometimes can cancel trips. If weather gets to where it's affecting safety, if something happens on the boat that affects the ability of that boat to operate safely, we have to cancel trips from time to time, but we really work hard at preventative maintenance, having an experienced captain and crew, and communicating to you as far in advance as possible if we know something might affect your trip. But keep in mind, guys, stuff happens, but we'll do our best to make sure you know as soon as we know. Now, one thing I saw in the comments that I wanted to point out, if you're a lady angler, if you're a woman watching this video and you like deep water, big fish fishing. Angela Daly, one of our Regulars Club members, and her friend Kelly, both lady anglers who fish with us quite a bit. They've booked a 10-hour private fishing charter on the Flying Hub 1 for ladies only. This is a ladies only trip. Up to 6 people are going. They need a couple more ladies to join them. Angela Daly is right in the comments, so you can tag her. And it's just like it sounds, Angela, and then Dailey. You can just put the @ symbol and type her name, and then you guys can connect and you can book her trip. That's a private charter, so we're just doing the trip with Angela. We don't do split charters, but we're going to help her out because we'd love to see more lady anglers out there. So if you want, connect with Angela and book that 10-hour private charter on the Flying Hub 1 this red snapper season, June 23rd. Red snapper, one guy or one lady, I didn't see who exactly commented. One person asked, are red snapper caught on the bottom, or do you catch them up in the water column? And the answer is both. Sometimes we catch red snapper right on the surface. Sometimes you catch them as you're dropping down to bottom. But primarily 90% of the time you catch them on the bottom. We catch most of our red snapper right on the bottom. But you literally, this past week on Monday when we were out there with Salt Strong, we had a flat line on the surface with the balloon. And that balloon was making sure that bait didn't go any deeper than like 5 foot under the water. We had a tail hook pinfish back there. We were targeting tuna, and we were on a big deep water wreck in around 200 foot of water, and we caught about a dozen red snapper, literally right 5 feet underneath the surface at the back of the boat. So sometimes they do come up in the water column, and sometimes you can catch them when you're knocker rigging, when you're vertical jigging, or when you're just using a flat line. And then if you're on a smaller boat, you only got a couple people in the boat, you can literally get those red snappers so fired up that they're underneath the boat. I've caught red snapper on surface popping lures before, so you can definitely get them chummed up real easily. Not on our boats because we don't chum a lot, like I mentioned before. Just the people fishing in the boat get those fish chummed up because we got a couple lines in the water. But if you're only fishing with 2, 3, 4 people, you can get anchored up over a spot like that where there's a lot of red snapper under you. And what I do is I use some thread fin herring. I'll cut them up into 2s or 3rds, and I'll start dropping those in. Then I might drop a couple whole one in, and then I'll throw in a couple live pinfish or pigfish, kind of bounce them off the side of the boat, get them stunned a little bit, and they go into the water zigzagging each way. And then I'll keep going with little pieces of chum, and I'll just keep that process going, and you'll see those red snapper come up right to the surface. Then at that point you throw a whole net full of live pinfish in the water, and all of a sudden they're up on the surface eating those baits on the surface. I did that in Costa Rica. We were in like 180 foot of water, and I was catching 20, 25 pound red snapper, and I even caught a 40 pound cubera literally on the surface. And you can do that same thing here. It just needs to be calm weather, and you need to get in an area where there's a lot of aggressive red snapper. But nowadays, that's a lot of different places. And those were all the questions that I saw while we were watching those videos. If I didn't see your question and I didn't get to it, keep in mind, guys, I always kind of go back through and answer some of the questions that I see in the comments. And you can always message our page. Just look up Hubbard's Marina, shoot it a message. I answer all our messages personally. You can always email me at capthubbard@hubbardsmarina.com. So C as in cat, A as in alpha, P as in Paul, T as in Tom, Hubbard@hubbardsmarina.com. And that's how I can get your answers to you as well. But let's give away some free fishing trips. Who wants to win some free fishing trips? We talked all about fishing, so let's give away some free trips. Now, keep in mind, guys, we're going to give away a 5-hour half day for 2 people, and we're going to give away a 10-hour all day for 2 people. We were a little shy of 300 people, guys. We only got to about 260 live viewers tonight. I think that was Game of Thrones fault. But I don't know. So we're a little shy of giving away a 39-hour tonight, but you still have a chance to win upwards of $300 in free fishing trips here. Keep in mind, before we start this, I did want to remind you guys this Friday, I need your help. This Friday morning, 8:30, 8:45 a.m., somewhere in there, tune in to Fox News or Fox 13. If you're not local to Tampa Bay area, you can just go on Google and type in Fox 13 News, and you can watch the news live right from their website. If you go to Fox 13 News, you can watch live right here. So if you're not in the Tampa Bay area, if you can't watch it on your TV, go on the website and watch the news live this coming Friday, 8:30, 8:45, somewhere around there. I'm going to be doing a live fishing show right on Fox 13 with Russell Rhodes, and it's a Hubbard's Marina thing, guys. We're super pumped. If you're a local and you're fishing inshore or near shore, fishing on your own boat, and you catch a good fish, take a good photo of it. Email me the photo. Email me your full name, where you're from, and a little bit of information, what you caught it on, approximately where you caught it, what the tide was doing, what the water clarity was, and I'll throw that on Fox 13 News, and I'll throw that in our fishing report too. Again, just email me, CAPT Hubbard at hubbardsmarina.com. So I need your fishing information, and I'd love to make you famous on the news and share that in our fishing report that we send out every Friday. So let's see who won our we're going to give away a 5-hour half day for 2 people. We're going to give away that first, and then we'll give away that 10-hour all day. So let's see who won a 5-hour half day for 2. Drum roll, please. Richard Brian Denk. There you go, Richard. You just won a 5-hour half day for 2 people. If you guys win, I need you to email me your home address and your phone number so I can send out those certificates to you guys. So now we're going to give away the 10-hour all day. But I do want to make sure I remind you guys, we do this live show every Sunday night. If you don't win this week, you can win next week or the week after. So we'll see you again next week, 8:30 p.m. Also, don't forget Bass Pro Shops. We do Bass Pro Shops event every month. This coming month, May 18th at 2 p.m., we'll be at Bass Pro Shops. We'll be giving away a lot of free trips at that event too. So come out and join us at Bass Pro Shops for a chance to win free trips on May 18th at 2 p.m. That's a free seminar. All you have to do is come join and you get a chance to win. So Brian Denk, let's see who won the 10-hour all day for 2. Brian won a 5-hour half day. Who's got the 10-hour? This is a $180 value, absolutely free, going to Nick Trapani, Long Island. Nick Trapani from Long Island won that 10-hour all day for 2. I'll see you guys next week. Don't forget to tune in every morning. Every morning we do a little short live stream to tell you about the weather and what we're catching. Every Sunday night we're here 8:30 p.m. talking fishing, and we'll be on Fox News or Fox 13 News every Friday around 8:30, 8:45 a.m. So tune in. Remember, if you're too busy to go fishing, you're just too darn busy. You guys have a great night tonight. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for spending your Sunday night with me, guys. We'll see you at Hubbard's Marina inside Fish Famous Johns Pass, hopefully soon. Thanks for watching.